Okay, and with that, so we want to make sure that we stay on time. Our virtual participants have joined as well. And so thank you all for joining this evening. In order to start us off in a good way, we will first have a welcome from Elder Verna McGregor, who is Algonquin Anishinaabe from Kitigan-Zibi, Algonquin First Nation.
Kwe kakina. Hello, everybody. Bonjour, tout le monde. Verna Indishnikas, Kitigan-Zibi Ndonjaba, Wagushnido Demashitunin Kipanesi. My name is Verna McGregor, and I'm from Kitigan-Zibi in Anishinaabe. And I said Fox is my clan on my mother's side, and Thunderbird's my clan on my father's side. I'd like to welcome you here to our traditional unceded lands. What does unceded mean? It means that we never signed treaty giving up the land. So it's a great honor to welcome you, all you supporters and fans of the Riverkeeper, because I think we all have to work together in this day and age, especially also with this issue of climate change, to look after the waters and the rivers, the streams, the all water. And for me, I'm also a water keeper, because our understanding as Anishinaabe, which is the people or the Algonquin, Omamaninawag, which means the nomads, is that women are keepers of the water and men are keepers of the fire. And it's that contrast and honoring the contrast. Really quickly, I'm just going to say a little prayer, and I thank Laura for the tobacco offering. And I have a little smudge here lit for everybody to have a good annual public meeting, and may you have lots of learning tonight. The smudge is also, too, as well, our connection from the physical world to the unseen world. And really quickly for us as a mom, we were known for the birch bark canoe, and the rivers were our highways until the colonization happened and we were displaced into reserve systems. And so the significance of Ottawa, again, is also it's at the confluence of the rivers coming together from the four directions. And so where you're meeting tonight is very important, because at the center of this medicine wheel represents balance. So I hope we can return balance to the rivers, return abundance of the fish that once was there. I was at this Oceana conference a couple of weeks ago, and their theme was returning abundance to the oceans. I said, but I think we also need to return this abundance to our rivers, because again, it's our also potential local food source in these unstable times. So on that note, I'm going to say a little prayer to honor you and to honor all creation, really. So I say miigwech kakina manidok kishe manido onje kakina gagishen dan onje mam degen in the kimanan shkaki question kason in the kimanan we do kakina pamatsa chikten is wa onje nagdo ablan kakina guchin in the kimanan miigwech onje kakina ete kishigon kisses to be kisses shichonang shak we do kwa ya nanokumis nan onje nagdo abdan kakina guch ya nibi Punksing, CB, Saigon, Kichigaga. Miigwechonje ya ishkude, kagimishin, chimino objetoya, we dokwa kakina, mamdagain in Wagonje Nagdo Abdan kakina guchia ishkude. Miigwechonje nasewen, kagimishin, chimino pomatsian, we dokwa kakina, mamdagain dashiakus a chikmanwea, COVID-19 shin kadege, we dokwa kakina. Shij kakina akusawen. Miigwechonje kakin hanijino and doganak, Mishom Sinan Negok Misnan, a shijni dabano jishak. Shuen Mishnonin Abigis, we dokwa kakina, Mamdege, kakina awesisak, never got a jik, beachim jik, Pemisu jik, Pemudge jik, Pemodege jik, kakina guch, Kanchish Quatnik, wait, Simine. We do ko kakina mam de gemi tikuk kakina gujia mishki mashkiki shwen mishnon. Kanches kwat ne gwede simin, hashes kana noch kuch ne gwede simin shwen mishnon. And I guess me, miigwech, 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 miigwech. What I'm saying is, I say miigwech 4 times to honor the 4 directions again, the 4 seasons, the 4 colors of people on this earth, and your journey here from spirit. You take your first breath and you do your earth walk here, and may you do good things on your earth walk as before you return back to your ancestors, which is spirit, and back to your ancestors who love you in all our spirits. So that's why I also like to smudge for you. So I wish you a good meeting, and I think too as well a lot of learning in the future, and a lot of healing is required for our waters. So have a good evening. And I'm sorry I can't be with you in person because I'm probably, this is pre-recorded, so I have to go to Montreal tomorrow, which is the night before your meeting. So as I'm talking to you now live, I'm probably in traffic in Montreal. So think of you, but enjoy your meeting. Miigwech.
Miigwech to Verna, and we certainly hope she's not stuck in traffic, that she's making an easy way home. So welcome to the Ottawa Riverkeeper annual public meeting. I'm Laura Rainsborough, I'm the Riverkeeper and CEO, and so it's my pleasure to say welcome to you all this evening. Bonsoir, je m'appelle Laura Rainsborough et je suis la Garde-rivière des Outaouais et aussi la directrice générale. Ça me fait grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici ce soir au nom de Garde-rivière des Outaouais. Pour que ce soit plus facile pour les interprètes, moi, je continuerai en anglais, mais quand le temps vient de plus tard pour poser les questions, s'il vous plaît, posez-les en votre langue préférée. Tonight's gathering is a moment to focus on the actions and efforts to protect the river here in the Ottawa River watershed, here in our own backyards. It is a very local focus. It is very tangible, and yet it's not lost on me, or I'm sure any of you, just how significant this work is globally as well. That's because all of our actions around the world are globally significant at this particular time. In the span of these few weeks, for example, our world leaders are trying to solve 2 major crises. On climate change, COP27 took place very recently in Egypt, and coming up shortly in Montreal will be COP15, which is focused on mass biodiversity loss. And in Montreal, that is really just a little ways downstream from the Ottawa River, the mouth of the Ottawa. And so with these 2 crises, they are separate crises, but they are inextricably linked. And tonight, as we look back on the work of Ottawa Riverkeeper over the last year, we dive deep into questions and issues that are relevant to our particular corner of the world, that we can also reflect and see just how important this work is in relation to these huge crises. We have an opportunity for those actions and efforts to really matter. And I believe strongly in that if everybody takes that opportunity within their own parts of the world, that together that is an unstoppable movement. Ottawa Riverkeeper is part of the Global Waterkeeper Alliance. And through this, we were represented at COP27 through the Rivers for Climate Coalition. And through this work and the work that we'll share tonight, the work that you all have been part of, that we will see how together our work combines to be a positive force. And so thank you. Thank you for attending. Thank you for taking this evening to join together. And thank you for being part of this community. This evening's event is being sponsored and has been sponsored for many years by Dentons. Dentons is a longtime supporter of Ottawa Riverkeeper. and we are very grateful to them for their support. And so it is my pleasure to invite Phil Reimer to say a few words on behalf of Dentons. Phil is a partner with Dentons, and he leads the real estate and banking and finance division. He is also, I'm going to add in the word proud. He's also a proud member of the Ottawa Riverkeeper Board of Directors. Phil, a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. It truly was a real pleasure serving on the board. It's been enlightening for me, being transferred here from Toronto years ago to be on Riverkeeper. My mother never thought that would happen, and it's been a great pleasure, and it's been enlightening to me. First, on behalf of my colleagues and I, we want to thank you for testing our facility. This is the first time we're testing what we paid a lot of money for, and I'm proud to report, you know, we're going to be paying our consultants because it's performing extremely well. So we thank you, and we hope to continue this relationship with you, test other technology in the future, because we really never get to test it otherwise. But more importantly, from Denton's perspective, we too see a lot of value in what Riverkeeper does. The legal issues that we are most confronted with, not only climate change, but also indigenous matters. So there's really and to be a part of a progressive organization like this, where you truly are generating tier 1 stuff, is truly impressive to us. Which is reason why, I mean, as much as I'm finishing my term on the board, we still want to keep this relationship going. My partners and I see such value in this organization. So there's a lot to be proud of, and we're going to continue to be as supportive as we can be for this great organization. So thank you, and enjoy your meeting.
Thank you so much, Phil, and the whole team at Dentons. So for those joining virtually, you may not realize we're on the 14th floor, and there is a gorgeous view to the river. A little hard to see at night tonight, but we're close. We're close to the river, and so thank you all to you who have come out to enjoy this experience together this evening in person as well. And now we have it on record that Dentons is interested in continuing to support Riverkeeper. Wonderful. And now it's my next pleasure is to introduce Jeff Green. So appointed to the Order of Canada, founder and president of the Students on Ice Foundation, please welcome Jeff Green to share highlights from the 2022 year with Ottawa Riverkeeper from his perspective as chair of the board of directors.
Thank you very much, Laura. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you. Miigwech Verna, great to see Verna. She's been such a champion and friend of the Ottawa Riverkeeper for so many years. I was just with Verna at that Oceanic conference, the Rebuilding Abundance conference, and she really helped to set that conference off in a good way and smudging everybody in the audience. And that's what she does for us as well. And that rebuilding abundance theme is really interesting. The oceans definitely need it. We're blessed in a sense where we live now, where that abundance is still here to some degree. And our job is to maintain that and rebuild it as well, but it's not as desperate as it is in some parts of the world. I also want to echo the thanks for Dentons and for Phil, who's probably gone back to work, and also David Little, who couldn't be with, he got called away to Toronto tonight. Dentons has been such another great partner and friend of the Ottawa Riverkeeper for so many years. They host really important meetings here. They provide advice, free legal advice. Can't go wrong with that. But also mentorship and financial support. And they're a great example of what makes Ottawa Riverkeeper work. It's all about partnerships and friendships and relationships. And that includes everybody in this room. If you're here tonight, it means you're an awesome person, basically. Who else would come out to support the river on a Tuesday night we really appreciate everything that you do. Je suis très fier d'être ici avec vous ce soir, nos bénévoles, nos amis, notre équipe, notre partenaire, whatever it is that you do with Riverkeeper. Maybe this is your first time ever being associated at an event for Riverkeeper. We appreciate the good karma if that's the case, and we hope to keep you involved. But thank you so much. On behalf of the board of directors, we have this amazing board. I'm so proud to work with them. Who else is here tonight besides Phil? Margot, where are you? Margot, can you stand up? Any other board members here tonight? Let's hear it for the board of directors. And really for everybody for being here. It's been a really exciting year for the Ottawa Riverkeeper. And tonight to kind of reflect on that a little bit, celebrate, and also look forward, because I think 2023 is even going to be more exciting, full of great initiatives, innovation, and some surprises, some exciting surprises we're excited to share with you tonight. After that pandemic period, this was such a great year to reconnect, wasn't it, with nature? And we did that in so many ways. We swam, we got in our boats, we paddled, we boated, we hiked, we biked. And it was a reminder of just how critical that relationship is to our lives, how critical nature is to our health. And those gifts and wonders, the awe that nature provides, all the benefits that she provides us, Mother Nature, the creator, however you want to reference nature, it should be the number one priority in society. We wouldn't be here without it. It sustains our life. Like clean air, clean water, and clean earth kind of are important, aren't they? I think we all know that's the case. Planet Earth, which should be called planet water, since 70% of it is covered in lakes and rivers and oceans, is not doing so well. We, like Laura just mentioned, COP27 and COP15 and all these other high-level global efforts to improve planetary health. It's happening, but what's so great about Ottawa Riverkeeper is it's an opportunity for all of us to make real, tangible differences. And that's what I think, besides those big international conferences, it's those community-led initiatives, which is really where the answer lies. And it lies in all of our hands. This planet we call home, we don't spin it and we don't steer it, but we're definitely having an impact on it, and a negative impact. But we also can have a positive impact. And that's what I'm so proud about, to be part of Ottawa Riverkeeper with all of you. It is an extraordinary organization with extraordinary people doing really important, critical things. And this decade is so critical. If you listen to all those reports, you read all those stories, this is the decade, isn't it? And we can't wait till the end of the decade. We're already 2 years into this decade. The action, the innovation, the efforts that we take now are so critical. But it's also a reason for optimism and hope and excitement, because that's, this touches our hearts, doesn't it? That's why we're here. We're here because this matters so deeply to all of us. And we are blessed. We're Canadians we've just won the nature lottery to live where we live. And it behooves us to be leaders. So the 2022 year, it was a return in person of our gala. Who was at the gala this year? Yeah, the best party in town, our in-person gala right on the shores of the river at the Rideau Falls. Why weren't you at the gala? You guys got to go next year. It was an amazing event, as it always is, and just filled with lovers of the river and the watershed and great friends and just great people. We also had the return of the Riverkeeper swim. Who swam across the river? Margot, yeah, nice. It was another great success, an opportunity to celebrate the river, but also to raise some money. We returned in full force for Ottawa Riverkeeper programming, and that programming touches on so many levels: science, education, advocacy. We can't forget another kind of really key piece to the Ottawa Riverkeeper magic is that we are based in the capital city of Canada. Every federal politician drinks water from the Ottawa River. They look out at the Ottawa River. When Beverly McClenaghan, one of our honorary riverkeepers a few years, gave her speech, she talked about looking out the windows of her office at the Supreme Court when she had to make really difficult, hard decisions about our country. She would look at that river to ground her. Another former honorary riverkeeper, Kevin Vickers, spoke about his connection to his river, the Miramichi, and how it was a place where he found peace and calm in a very difficult role that he was playing at the time. So yeah, that piece about where we are, this is not just any other river. This is a historical river for our country in so many ways. So in addition to all of our regular activities, our team just got better and better, including, of course, the 1-year anniversary of our amazing Ottawa Riverkeeper, Laura. Let's hear it for Laura. So many of the Ottawa Riverkeeper staff, full-time staff, are here. We have such an incredible team and so much expertise and passion. Let's hear it for all of the Riverkeeper team that are here. Thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, our board has gone through some renewal. We have a really talented, diverse, passionate board. Our org staff just keeps getting better and stronger, not by the day, but definitely by the year. And that's what gives us so much hope, because of the capacity of this organization has grown to, like, look at this room tonight. I remember our APMs used to be, what was that place, Meredith? The Ron Colbus Center, which we love, but it was like a cold gymnasium with dusty floors and picnic tables. And here we are, moving up in the high rise. Also, a huge, I just wanted to give a shout out to this year's honorary Riverkeeper, a new Hall of Fame hockey all-star. Daniel Alfredson is our honorary Riverkeeper this year. And he genuinely wants to get his hands wet and get involved in this organization, which just says so much as such a leader in this city. So the organization is in a really exciting place, ready to take on the challenges ahead with all that passion and innovation and skill. And I guess tonight, I wanted to also mention a very exciting opportunity, which maybe some of you have heard of. Have you heard of anything happening? Maybe something called River House, La Maison Riveraine. Well, guess what, everybody? We have signed a lease with the National Capital Commission to bring River House, Maison Riveraine to life, to reality. And if you haven't heard about it, or you've just heard a few snippets here and there, this is a dream the Riverkeeper has had for a better part of a decade. It's been a tremendous amount of work over the last 5 years with the National Capital Commission, our partners, our staff, Dentons, and so many others. What exactly is it? Well, it's that heritage boathouse. Used to be known as the Ottawa New Edinburgh Club. Here's some photos. It's over 100 years old. It has heritage status. It fell into disrepair. And in the last few years, it's been totally renovated from top to bottom. And now the vision of this becoming the new home for the Ottawa Riverkeeper is is happening. It's like having a big canoe as our office. It won't travel far, but it is right on the river. It couldn't be a more apropos space and place for the Riverkeeper to call home, to do the work that it does. As I mentioned, it's really fully renovated. We're still finishing the interior spaces at the moment. So we're not going to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like, but suffice to say, it will be a world-class facility, an incredible catalyst, not just for the Riverkeeper, but for this city, the region, and the watershed. The dream is that this will be a hub. Besides being the home of Riverkeeper on the top floor, it will be a hub for collaboration, for that partnership building, for education, to bring youth, future leaders, for science, for research. We have a laboratory built in on the bottom floor, and that will be in partnership with groups like the Museum of Nature, who Noel is representing tonight, and universities in the city on both sides of the river. It's a magic place, a gathering place, an event space, a place to fill that gap for public access to the Ottawa River. You can come and go for a swim here. You can put your canoe in and go for a paddle, filling that 23-kilometer gap between Westboro Beach and Petrie Island. It will be a place of not just regional importance, but national and international. Some of you have been to the Ottawa River Summit. Well, imagine us hosting the Capital River Summit here, which we should, and sharing best practices with other capital cities around the world. So the list goes on. We really want you all to be part of this journey. The team is actually moving in January. All of the offices in boxes at the moment, in closets upstairs, but that will be step one. And then later in the spring is when it will hopefully be open to the public, and we'll have programming happening, and it'll be a phased in opening, I think, because there's other spaces in the building which we're trying to animate and find partners for, but it's just so exciting. It's hard to contain it, and everybody here that's gone to the building, and including some of our staff this week, what was your comment that it was just like I was speechless walking into that space, and the potential for what it represents, a game changer for the Ottawa Riverkeeper. I think it's really going to allow us to do more than we've ever been able to do before. But again, with all of you, we have a campaign cabinet. So we haven't raised all the money we need to fully realize the dream, but Michel Drouin and our board member, Colleen Westeinda, have graciously offered to be the campaign co-chairs. We have an amazing campaign committee. So you'll be hearing more about that in the weeks and months to come, and how you can get involved to help bring this vision to life. Sound good? Are you excited about River House and making this watershed the best it can possibly be? We have to dream big, and we have the ability, we have the talent, we have the people. Let's make this a model for the world of what communities can do when they really pull together. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later this evening.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We clean up nice. We can host a fancy event. We can have a nice building, but we're still that scrappy organization, making sure that we're a champion for the needs of the river, of the watershed. And so I'm excited to share more with you of the highlights that we've accomplished over this last year. And we are here in part to celebrate the wonder of the Ottawa River, by which we mean, that is code for all of the rivers, the tributaries, wetlands, lakes, creeks, and streams, the entire vast watershed, through which the river courses through. The river itself is 1,271 kilometers. This is a vast watershed, more than twice the size of the province of New Brunswick. And we are nested here within the world's largest freshwater ecosystem. It is a marvelous watershed, all united by the Ottawa River, the Kitchissippi. And we are discovering more and more about this great wonder all the time. Did you know that some, I think this is kind of new, hot off the press, some are calling the Ottawa River the sixth Great Lake? That's kind of fancy, right? I like that. I like the sound of that. And it's because of the flow. The flow through the Ottawa can exceed that of all the Great Lakes combined. Like, this is a force that we have here. And it is home to an abundance of biodiversity that is of extreme ecological significance. And we, those who live here in this watershed, we are the ones with the great privilege and the great responsibility to protect and promote its ecological health. Now, this work is not only limited to the work of Ottawa Riverkeeper, but certainly that is our core focus. And so we're excited to share with you tonight how we achieve that through science, education, and advocacy. And so it's my pleasure to next introduce Theresa Holman, Director of Science and Policy, to share with you just a little bit, the highlights of our science team work this year.
I'm supposed to get a new slide. There it is. This is Katie and I in the river sorting through a benthic sample, trying to dig out rocks, I believe. So this is us getting down and dirty in the rivers. Working on the watershed health assessment and monitoring initiative, the science team has spent lots of time next to and in rivers throughout the watershed, collecting data along with members of Kebewik First Nation and guardians from Kittigan-Zibi, as well as working with members of 157 community scientists who are a part of the data collection and analysis efforts. This data we have collected as part of the watershed health assessment and monitoring initiative has been shared on the open data portal, which has been consulted over 16,000 times and has helped shape the information and material shared on the Discovery portal launched this past February. If you haven't had a chance to check out the portal, I suggest you do. The work that we've been doing as part of the Watershed Health Assessment and Monitoring Initiative has helped to answer 7 of the most common questions about the Ottawa River that the Ottawa Riverkeeper gets regularly. Community scientists play a really important role in data collection, providing 440 data points from 164 locations this past year. They contributed data to 6 programs, including total phosphorus, chlorophyll A, invasive species, and algal blooms. And in case you were wondering, community-based monitoring volunteers don't take a break in the winter. We're just getting started on our road salt monitoring, keeping track of what's happening in urban streams. Last year, our program saw a 30% decline in chloride concentrations, thanks to training that we helped provide to snow clearing contractors at one of our test sites. We are hoping to see, it was pretty awesome. And we're hoping to see similar good news stories this year, so stay tuned. We have also been sending out reminders to monitors to monitor for ice on reports from throughout the watershed. So once the ice comes on, we have a way of tracking when the river starts to freeze up. I know not everyone is ready to transition into winter quite yet. So we also do lots of work in the summer to keep track of what's happening at beaches. And this year we analyzed 745 recreational water quality samples, uploading this data along with data that is available for municipalities. This attracted over 270,000 visits to Swim Guide, a free publicly available site that provides beachgoers with the most recent data about water quality at beaches and swim spots, and even the occasional kayak put in. So that's a quick wrap up of what's going on with the science team. We're very busy and we're really looking forward to next year.
Did you catch that statistic about the community scientists? 157 community scientists. So these are volunteers who helped out with our monitoring work across the entire watershed. We're a small but mighty team of staff. We are 15, but we cannot feasibly be in this entire watershed. And it is through the work of volunteers, the community scientists who sign up to help out, where we can be able to better monitor throughout the whole watershed. That is our process of witnessing, of observing, of learning what the river is telling us so that we can effectively advocate, we can effectively act in order to work in its best interests. And so that work of those 157 community scientists is worth celebrating this evening. And one more highlight I want to pull from there is you've already celebrated it with applause, but that 30% reduction in chloride levels in that one creek, that is because we were able to partner with offer a training program called Smart About Salt to contractors to be able to see that they had the proper training. I believe it was 14 different modules that they enlisted in order to better understand all of the ramifications of proper salt use. So we understand that road salt is an important tool, and yet most Canadians dramatically overuse or over apply the amount of road salt. And so by proper training, imagine what knowledge can do, that we were able to see with our monitoring programs that decrease in the chloride levels. And that, as I'm learning, is helping the most vulnerable of our wonderful ecosystem species in those creeks. Salamanders, dragonflies. Sorry, I'm really into the cute animals like salamanders, but that means that they are not exposed to such dramatic chloride levels and have a better chance, especially in the early stages of reproduction, so that those species have better chances. So that's a big success after year one. And now, along with science, as Jeff alluded to, it's important to also build that next generation of scientists and the next generation of water leaders. So it's my pleasure to next introduce a Director of Education and Community Engagement, Julia Ostertag.
Thank you so much. And I actually came into this position as a community volunteer doing road salt monitoring at my creek behind my place in Gatineau on the Moore Creek. So I think it's a great way to get involved, in Ottawa Riverkeeper. And it's my pleasure to talk about some of our education programs. We're piloting a lot right now. We're launching River School, all of our education programs for River House. And it's a really exciting time. And it's a real honor to be here at this time as we imagine and collaborate with people across the watershed. What does this educational programming look like? And our most well-known program, I see our slides are in opposite order to my notes, is our Youth Water Leaders program. And there is Olivia Leon. She won the Dan Burton Outstanding Volunteer of the Year Award. And she was a youth water leader, and this was her service project. So she wanted to make a difference through art and created a mural called Voices Unheard. If you go to Bait Island, you can see this amazing mural of species at risk in the watershed. And this year's cohort is incredible. Lydia is here. She's volunteering tonight. There's 17 participants. They're really diverse. They have great passions. They bring so much to our work as Ottawa Riverkeeper and to their communities and to the river. So I'm really grateful to be able to work with young people through the Youth Water Leaders program. I guess if we hop back, we have the Stop Plastic Pollution Project, which is another project that we're just piloting this year, and it has already reached almost 200 high school students in the watershed. So learning about plastic pollution, taking action to stop plastic pollution. So we do shoreline cleanups, and then also really thinking about what other steps are needed. yes, we can clean up at a shoreline, but we also need to understand that the plastic pollution is a global crisis, that we all participate in it, and that we can take action in all parts of our lives as individuals and as a society. So that's a great project that we've just been piloting this year. And then also a project that we piloted this year called Flow, and that was in partnership with Skeleton Key Theatre and combining Indigenous knowledge, science, and performance to connect high school students to the river. And this was at St. Patrick's. This was our pilot, and it was incredible. For 2 weeks, these students were outside learning about the river, learning through performance, and creating a performance to show to other students in their school. And we're proud to say that we have funding to continue to offer this through Mask Online, so a community arts program. So there's all these different ways that education can happen through science, through arts, through performance, learning with Indigenous communities. And this is some of the work that we're building on and really excited about as we go toward having our new river school at River House. And so as Director of Community Engagement, we also have a lot of things going on. And if you don't have it yet, you can put on your phone or on your computer the iCleanup web application. And that is a way for you to participate in shoreline cleanups. Just when you go for your daily walks and you see something, you want to pick it up, you can keep track of that. You can also organize shoreline cleanups with your neighborhood and your friends, with high school students as volunteer hours. So we have the iCleanup app. If you don't have it yet, I encourage you all to sign up. We have 355 people who are regularly posting and sharing their cleanups on that. We've also worked, and the iCleanup app actually came out of our collaboration with the Pacte d'Amitié. And we've held 3 cleanups with them this year. And there was one in Hawkesbury where we collected 1,367 pounds of garbage from the shoreline in one location. So this was an area that really needed a cleanup, and it got it with our volunteers. If you have ideas of shoreline cleanups and you want to contact us and we can organize things, definitely let us know. And here we are, we were invited to speak also at the celebration, their 10th anniversary celebration. And we've recently released our 3rd video in collaboration with the Pacte d'Amitié about people's connections to the river and celebrating those connections. And sometimes the river divides, but very often it brings us together. And so that is something that we want to highlight in that 3rd and final video that we created with the Pacte d'Amitié. So thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Wonderful. And thinking about the community scientists, the volunteers who come out to shoreline cleanups, in total, we've had over 3,000 hours of volunteering that has been directly done through Ottawa Riverkeeper this year. And this work is also made possible because people put their support behind it. So giving time and also giving your financial support. So there's over 800 individual donors who have supported this work over the last year. That's really what makes Ottawa Riverkeeper be able to run. We put that money towards programming. We ensure that this work is supported in order to do it and to do it well in the best interests of the river. And our advocacy work is a very important part of how we can make change through Ottawa Riverkeeper. In the last year, it was a very busy year for us to advocate about nuclear waste issues in the watershed. We're one of few organizations that focuses on the freshwater needs and interests in relation to nuclear waste. With Chalk River Laboratories in the Ottawa River watershed, it means that we have a very vested interest in ensuring that these issues are heard loud and clear. There is a proposal being put forward for a near surface disposal facility for nuclear waste, and we intervened in that process. We spoke at the hearings. It was a bad hair day for me. But look, we have our serious faces on, and we intervened about nuclear waste because the issues that we keep track of, the issues that our science team works on, need to be heard loud and clear when we are making decisions as important to this as this. And we also were able to ensure that we made our voices clear when there were Algonquin communities in the watershed who did not feel that they were properly consulted in the process. And so we supported, took their lead and supported that the process has actually been officially delayed in order to allow more time for 2 Algonquin communities to intervene in the process as well. And when it comes to biodiversity, we did speak earlier about COP15 and mass biodiversity loss. Unfortunately, it is happening in our own backyard. And what we know about the American eel in particular, an amazing and curious fish, is that it has experienced a dramatic 99% decline in the Ottawa. And so, with numbers as shocking as that, this is a priority for Ottawa Riverkeeper. We know that there is a single physical barrier preventing American eels to migrate up the Ottawa, and that is the Carillon Dam. And so we have been working very closely this year with its dam operator, Hydro-Quebec, to ensure that we are in touch with what their scientists are working on, that we've visited some of their facilities to understand what they're trying to do. And we are advocating for an eel ladder to be installed at that dam. We know that that would make a difference in support of eel populations. And we know that the time is now in order to support this species in particular. It is some of the most fecund eels that travel up the Ottawa because they are seeking those strong headwaters. We are near the farthest reaches of their global migration patterns. And so here we have an opportunity to really make a globally significant effort in support of an important species. And I would be remiss if in our advocacy efforts, I didn't also speak about the pollution hotline that we run, about all of you who will call the hotline in order to report pollution that you see, in order to ask questions about which jurisdiction, which regulation should be contacted in order to resolve an issue, and even just to ask, look what I'm seeing here, is this an issue? And so our science team, our whole team is there to help support, make the right connections, and see that issues are addressed as promptly as possible. And part of that is also done through the support of river watchers, volunteers who act as the eyes and ears in order to see that any issues arising throughout the watershed, that Riverkeeper is kept in the loop in order to see if we can provide support, and also providing that network of river watchers in order to see that the whole watershed is cared for by the people who are there on the ground. All right. It's my pleasure to now facilitate a panel because there are so many issues in flux in the watershed. And of particular interest over the last little while have been the legislative changes affecting wetlands and riparian zones. So I'll invite our two in-person panelists to make their way to our panel table at the front of the room. And we have another panelist joining us by Zoom. Shout out to our ad hoc AV team who is using complex technology and making it work so far, I hope. Worked in our multiple test runs. Fantastic. So we have two in-person panelists, one virtual panelist, and we're off. All right, so we are calling this panel Wetlands in Flux. As I said, there are so many legislative changes that affect, this is mostly a provincial level issue where the jurisdiction exists. And so in Ontario and in Quebec, with the river being the border between the two, it means that the river doesn't know which province it's in. The river doesn't care. And yet the legislation makes a big difference in how we care for the shores of the river, in how we protect and support the different ecosystems within it. And so wetlands in flux. We will speak about how wetlands and shoreline legislation have gone through a number of changes in both Ontario and Quebec over the recent years. Our panelists this evening work directly on either the implementation of these policies or they have expertise in interpreting them. And they will help provide a complete picture of how the legislations are changing. I just promised a complete picture. How are we feeling about that? And what this means overall for protections of freshwater ecosystems. And so joining us this evening are Sommer Casgrain-Robertson, General Manager at the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, Theresa McClenaghan, Executive Director and Counsel at the Canadian Environmental Law Association, and AOC, Monsieur Pierre Renaud, Mayor of Canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest, and also he is an environmental lawyer. And so we're just going to jump right into it. How does that sound? Okay, we're going to jump right into it. So I have four questions, and we will go through each of you to hear your responses. And so I'd like to begin with my first question, that there have been a number of changes to legislation over the past few years. If you can provide us a quick summary, so we jump into this with you, a quick summary of the current legislation and how it provides protections of wetlands and shorelines. How is this different from legislation from, say, 5 to 10 years ago? So give us a bit of a snapshot, and also what's at stake. I will ask Theresa to begin.
Okay, how's the sound? I think what I'm going to focus on, because there have been quite a few changes in Ontario law in recent years, and those changes have affected the planning legislation, so the way that towns and cities and municipalities make decisions about land use. And they've affected conservation authorities, which we'll hear more about. But there is a host of changes on the table right now as we speak that are open for consultation and comment right now. And it's a very critical time for people who are interested in water and fresh water to learn about those and then to put some comments in while you still can. So Bill 23 is one of the changes, and that's a legislative set of amendments. I'm not really going to focus on that. It is going on a very fast track, and the legislature sent it to committee. The committee heard hearings. We made some submissions, as did Conservation Ontario. And then it's already gone through clause by clause. I think they finished it, although I've been in Ottawa. I haven't had a chance to verify that. And they made some changes to it, but as far as I know, they didn't back off on the Conservation Authority changes yet. So it's not yet passed. It's not past third reading. This is a time to speak up. But there are also about 18 or 19 and counting Environmental Registry of Ontario postings, providing for people to be able to comment on changes to Ontario environmental law and policy. And one of those postings is talking about making changes to the Ontario wetland evaluation strategy. So why does this matter? It matters because scientists in Ontario for decades and decades have used this tool to help determine the significance of wetlands. And then based on how significant they are, the local municipality or the province makes decisions about protecting them or protecting them somewhat in their land use plan. And this might be repeated publicly, but I'll say it anyway. Reading the proposal from the government for this plan reads as if someone gave the document, the science-based document about how you evaluate wetlands, to somebody who didn't like wetlands and said, can you please do something about all these wetlands that we're still trying to protect, because we don't want to protect very many anymore. And that's the outcome that's in front of you right now to comment on. So one of the changes they've proposed is to, when you're figuring out how significant a wetland is, to remove the ability to consider the wetland part of a wetland complex. So sometimes wetland significance is because you have quite a number of smaller wetlands and maybe a bigger one somewhere in there, and they are all part of a complex, and the species travel through them, and there are other kinds of habitat, and the water flows, groundwater and surface waters flow, and the whole thing is significant. So the proposal here is to remove complexing from the assessment document, so that the fact that it's part of a complex will no longer matter. And then each wetland has to be evaluated on its own. And then it becomes harder to imagine that maybe these smaller single wetlands will be considered significant or worth protection. The next thing, kind of unbelievably to me, and I'm not even a scientist, is that another part of the current wetland assessment document says that if it provides reproductive habitat or habitat for migration or for feeding or for hibernation or habitat for an endangered or threatened species, those are additional reasons to give the wetland significance. And this proposal says that all of those things would be removed from the assessment of significance. This is a proposal by the provincial government right now. Oh, so it's done by evaluators, so scientists who would evaluate the wetland. So this is another change, is that instead of then the evaluation going to the Ministry of Natural Resources for approval and verification, it will become just a certified person. So somebody who could be hired, let's say, by a landowner or a developer to reevaluate or evaluate a wetland, and then on their say-so advise the municipality that, you know, it doesn't deserve protection, would be the outcome. The other thing that's there is that right now, even wetlands that are not provincially significant still may be protected as locally important wetlands. And this is often the case in municipal land use planning. And the wetland strategy provides guidance to municipalities about doing that. And these proposed changes are removing that guidance to local municipalities around locally important wetlands. And then finally, there are provisions around offsets, and there is a bit of a nod to sequencing about avoidance first, like don't touch the wetland and then only do offsets as a last resort. But we think that it's become weaker in the guidance. And then there are insufficient provisions around monitoring the health of the wetland after it's been evaluated. And there's been a complete failure to consult with Indigenous communities over this proposal. So all that to say, on CELA's website, cela.ca, we have a landing page that we created for Bill 23 and all of the associated housing related policy proposals. We don't disagree with the need for housing, but we fundamentally disagree with many of the proposals that are in front of us right now. There are many other proposals there. There are proposals to swap green belt land for other land. There are proposals to change the way the Planning Act works, and on and on. So we've been putting resources from our own lawyers and our analysis up there. We've also been putting resources from all kinds of other third parties like Conservation Ontario, Ducks Unlimited, many others up there as well. And we have a chart with every single proposal, the link to the environmental posting and the deadline. So the first of those deadlines, including this one on wetlands, is November 24th. And all of the deadlines associated with Bill 23 are November 24th. And then there are a host of other deadlines, but all coming up quickly, like December 2nd, for example. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Theresa. This is a focus on a particular piece of legislation that is active right now. We're open for comment, and it's particularly a provincial legislation piece within Ontario. But with such urgency to comment now, this is particularly of interest to share and to give that synopsis. So thank you. And now with a more local bent on wetland protection, I'd like to ask Sommer, do you want the question repeated?
No,
Yes?
that's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
I love the question when I got it. When I got Larissa's invite, if she had reached out a month earlier, I would have had very little to say, but thanks to the provincial government, I think tonight we'll all have a lot to discuss. And you probably didn't think coming here tonight that you'd be leaving with homework. But there is some stuff as citizens and people that care about local aquatic resources that we hope you'll do when you get home. So we'll paint a bit of a picture tonight, hopefully not too gloomy, but one that maybe ends on an inspiring note, and you can go home and kind of pick up the fight that we've been leading as well. So I would say in Ontario, looking back, wetlands and riparian corridors have been relatively well protected over the years. I can speak from the Conservation Authority perspective. We've been regulating development since 1976 across the province. It started off very focused on hazard lands. So our regulations were very focused on development in floodplains, area that was subject to erosion, unstable soils. But that then grew to include any alteration to water courses. And so that's where we have regulations that protect riparian shorelines. And we do a lot of regulatory work around people who maybe want to put in erosion protection or alter shorelines. So we're big advocates, obviously, for maintaining natural buffers. So that's kind of our role in riparian development. But also wetlands were added to our regulation in 2006. So not as far back, but since 2006, conservation authorities have regulated interference with wetlands. So that's development in or around wetlands that could either impact the wetland itself or the hydrologic function of the wetland. So for a while now, we've been regulating wetlands, and that is complementary to the role of municipalities as well, as Theresa mentioned. So through the Planning Act, municipalities have fairly strong tools as well to be able to regulate development that would interfere with a wetland. So things were going relatively well. It was never perfect. No regulation is. There was still some wetland loss in the province, but I think wetlands that were designated provincially significant, as Theresa explained, were well protected. Certainly wetlands that were considered locally significant or unevaluated, of which there are still many wetlands that have never been evaluated. And that doesn't mean they're not significant. It just means they haven't gone through the process. And we know just in our own watershed, a lot of unevaluated wetlands, if they were put through the system, would be provincially significant. Those obviously did not have the same level of protection. So October 25th, day after the municipal election, life got a lot more interesting in Ontario. So as Theresa said, Bill 23 came out, but so did a number of other postings, discussion papers, consultation guides, updated provincial guidance documents. And when you look at the suite of them, it is very concerning in terms of what the future of wetlands will be in this province. And so Theresa touched on a number of changes that we're also very concerned about, just how wetlands are evaluated. It will be much more difficult moving forward for a wetland to achieve provincially significant designation. And that's concerning because we know that if a wetland is deemed provincially significant, it will be well protected. So much more difficult for a wetland to achieve that status. Changes like the Ministry of Natural Resources not administering wetland evaluations anymore is very concerning to us. we are understanding is that responsibility will be downloaded to municipalities. They are not equipped. This is not a skill set or an area of expertise that they have. We're unclear as to whether they will just have to accept the work of a wetland evaluator. MNRF would have applied some scientific review of that work before designating a wetland. So just introducing a lot of gaps in the whole process of evaluating a wetland in terms of who does what, the level of oversight, but also how difficult it will be for a wetland to be provincially significant. In combination with that, some of the changes that are being made to conservation authorities is currently we regulate development within 120 meters of a provincially significant wetland. That is being proposed to be reduced to 30 meters. So that is concerning. The area over which we will have regulation is getting much smaller. Beyond that, there are also changes to what our regulation will apply to. So the province is looking to introduce a list of development that they deem to be low risk, and those activities would be exempt from requiring a permit from the Conservation Authority. They're also proposing that in certain municipalities, and we're thinking potentially high growth municipalities like Ottawa, that development that receives approval through the Planning Act would then be exempt from requiring a Conservation Authority permit. So imagine Planning Act approves a subdivision, but now the houses don't need a building permit. Seems like a bit of a gap to me. At the permitting stage is when a lot of the details get looked at. Planning can be very high level. So we're very concerned that when you look at all of the pieces that were introduced on October 25th, it's shrinking where permits and regulatory oversight will apply. It's shrinking the list of development that will require permits, and it's shrinking and weakening wetland designations that would trigger some of these regulatory approvals. So when you add it all together, we're incredibly concerned. We were already seeing wetland loss under the existing regime. I can't even imagine if all of these changes go through, what the status of wetlands will be in 12 months, in 24 months, and in 10 years, I don't know what we'll have left. I know in our watershed, it's 20% wetland cover. That is the envy of other parts of the province. I think as Jeff was saying, we are lucky in this area. We have what other areas of the province have lost. It is our job to protect and keep what we have. And the changes on the 25th are going to make that much more difficult. And I'm sure I'm speaking to those that already know, but wetlands are essential. These are not just areas of habitat, although that's incredibly important. Wetlands are critical for flood attenuation. We know in the Rideau watershed alone that 20% wetland cover reduces the peak flood by 10%. If we lose all wetlands in the Rideau watershed, floodwaters will be 10% higher. We also know they're essential for lessening drought conditions. They're like a big sponge in the flood event. They hold water and they keep it out of the system. But when water levels drop, they release it slowly and help stave off drought conditions. They're also like little water treatment plants. The water coming out of a wetland is far cleaner than the water going in. So we're very concerned about water quality issues, flooding, erosion. So I, like Theresa, support the need for more housing and affordable housing in Ontario. I cannot, in reading all of these changes, understand how any of them will lead to more housing or cheaper housing in the province. And that has been the main issue that we've raised with the province. And the last thing I'll end with is conservation authorities have been for the last 4 weeks advocating hard, letters, media releases. What I'm very disappointed about is the changes were introduced the day after the municipal election, which means the 30-day consultation period happened in the middle of the turnover for council. New councils were sworn in last week. The deadline, as Theresa said, is Thursday. This has not given municipalities really any opportunity to weigh in on changes that are fundamentally changing development review. And the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is the umbrella organization that represents all 444 municipalities in the province, was denied their request to present to standing committee, which I have never seen happen. CELA was able to present, Conservation Ontario was able to present, but AMO was not. So I've got a lot more to say, but I'll cut it off there. We'll save some meat for the rest of the questions, but thank you.
Whew, we may be feeling a lot of feelings after this. And so as a small palate cleanser, we will move from Ontario to Quebec. I would like to invite you to come along with me on a small journey across the river from Ontario to Quebec. And on this journey, I will share with you some wetlands facts. Okay, wetlands are among the most biodiverse ecosystems on our planet. Globally, 40% of all wildlife to some degree rely on wetlands. And Canada is home to 1/4 of the world's wetlands. As Sommer described, they act like sponges. They offer incredible services like flood mitigation. And along the river's edge, where many wetlands are, these riparian zones, in a more broad topic, act as an incredible buffer and also habitat and home for so many species. Personally, I come from a small town that is known for its wetlands. In fact, was just designated the first wetland city in North America by the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. And so wetlands, I know, are so critical. And so I'm grateful to our panelists for speaking this evening. Oh, look, we've arrived on the shores of Quebec. We have arrived at Canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest, and we are greeted here by the mayor, Monsieur Pierre Renaud. Pierre, I would invite you to tell us more about the legislative changes in Quebec that affect freshwater ecosystems.
Alors, merci. Vous m'entendez bien? Oui? Oui, parfait. Alors, bonsoir à tous. Merci pour l'invitation. C'est très apprécié. Et c'est avec grand plaisir que je suis avec vous ce soir parce que toute la notion des milieux humides et hydriques, comme tous l'ont affirmé depuis le début, c'est très, très important pour la survie de nos rivières et bien sûr de notre biodiversité. Alors, on a la COP 15 qui va arriver bientôt à Montréal, comme on l'a mentionné également. Alors, ça va être important de poser des gestes concluants pour la protection de nos milieux humides. Bien sûr, je vais m'exprimer en français ce soir. Alors, s'il y a des gens qui veulent aller chercher les appareils, c'est le temps, si jamais la compréhension n'est pas tout à fait de qualité. J'aimerais aussi féliciter Dentons, qui est votre grand partenaire. Je pense que c'est important d'être affilié à un grand partenaire et d'avoir un grand bureau d'avocats comme ça qui vous donne un bon coup de main. Alors, toutes mes félicitations à Dentons et à votre organisation de travailler ensemble. C'est un très beau partenariat. Écoutez, au Québec, en tant que maire d'une petite localité dont le nom est long, parce que c'est Canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest, ou en anglais, c'est Lochaber-Westside Township. Alors, on a décidé, nous, de protéger nos milieux humides. Et on est une des premières municipalités. Il y a 1130 municipalités au Québec. Et on est l'une des premières à avoir utilisé l'outil législatif afin de protéger les milieux humides sur tout notre territoire. Et on dit bien tous les milieux humides. Mais avant d'y arriver, j'aimerais quand même vous parler un peu des modifications législatives qui sont intervenues au Québec depuis les dernières années. Alors, une modification importante est arrivée avec la modification de la loi sur la qualité de l'environnement, qui est la loi la plus importante en matière d'environnement au Québec. Cette modification est arrivée en 2017 et elle a eu comme ajout une section complète sur la protection des milieux humides et milieux hydriques. Cette section a comme objectif aucune perte nette de milieux humides. Toutefois, le gouvernement a pensé qu'il serait de bonne loi de permettre un régime de compensation s'il y avait destruction des milieux humides. Donc, on veut atteindre l'objectif aucune perte nette, mais en même temps, on permet la destruction des milieux humides s'il y a compensation selon un tableau un peu complexe qui était adopté et où les coûts pour la destruction d'un milieu humide peuvent être de 250 000 $ pour un petit milieu humide jusqu'à 6 ou 7 millions de dollars pour un grand milieu humide. Bien sûr, plus on est proche dans la région de Montréal, plus les coûts sont élevés, plus on s'éloigne vers le nord du Québec, plus les coûts sont bas. Ça, c'était une des modifications qui est arrivée en 2017. 2018, le gouvernement a adopté la loi affirmant le caractère collectif des ressources en eau et favorisant une meilleure gouvernance de l'eau et des milieux associés. Ça aussi, c'est un grand titre pour une loi qui touche l'eau. Et dans cette loi, le gouvernement, en 2018, a demandé aux 87 MRC. Une MRC, c'est un regroupement de municipalités. Donc, il y a 87 MRC au Québec. Le gouvernement a rendu obligatoire le fait pour les MRC d'adopter un plan régional concernant les milieux hydriques et humides. Et ce plan régional doit être une carte, donc une cartographie de tous les milieux humides qu'on retrouve au niveau de la MRC. Et ces milieux humides devront être protégés en vertu de cette cartographie qui sera insérée à l'intérieur du schéma d'aménagement de chacune des MRC, dont les municipalités devront appliquer par la suite. Bien sûr, la municipalité devra adopter un règlement qui va aller en droite ligne avec le schéma d'aménagement et le plan régional de protection des milieux humides et hydriques. Ça devait être fait pour juin 2022. Je vous dirais que 80% des MRC sont en retard sur l'échéancier, donc ça devrait être adopté en juin 2023. Toutefois, notre municipalité, dès 2018, j'ai été élu comme maire en 2017 et en 2018, nous avons mis d'avant des nouvelles réglementations pour protéger des corridors écologiques et des corridors de biodiversité sur les terres privées. Ce qui est assez exceptionnel, encore une fois, c'est une première, je pense, au Québec. Et en ce sens, on a décidé, le conseil municipal, d'aller plus loin. Et en 2020, nous avons adopté un nouveau plan d'urbanisme et de nouveaux règlements d'urbanisme, donc règlement de zonage, règlement de lotissement, règlement de construction. Tous ces règlements-là sont nouveaux et ils ont été écrits dans un encadrement de développement durable, Sustainable Development. Alors, on a mis ça d'avant et on est la première municipalité, ça je peux vous le confirmer, à avoir adopté un plan d'urbanisme et des règlements d'urbanisme conformes au développement durable. Dans ce développement durable, bien sûr, vient toute la notion de protection des milieux humides et des milieux hydriques. Alors donc, nous avons décidé d'adopter un règlement où on a mis des bandes de protection le long des milieux hydriques, donc 15 mètres pour une pente de moins de 30 % et 23 mètres de longueur pour une pente de plus de 30 %. Ça, c'est pour les milieux hydriques. Et les milieux humides, nous avons décidé d'utiliser un article, je dirais, un peu méconnu de la part des maires et des conseils municipaux, soit méconnu ou manque de volonté politique. Mais il y a un article, en fait, il y a deux articles dans la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme qui sont très importants, qui se retrouvent à l'article 113 de la loi, qui concerne le règlement de zonage et qui vient dire notamment, et je vais prendre le temps de vous le lire, on dit que la municipalité peut régir ou restreindre par zone l'excavation du sol, le déplacement d'humus, la plantation et l'abattage d'arbres et tous les travaux de déblai et de remblai. Donc, notre municipalité, on a utilisé cet article pour interdire tous les déblais et les remblais dans les milieux humides. Donc, indirectement, on protège tous les milieux humides et tous les milieux humides, quels qu'ils qu'ils soient petits ou grands, qu'ils soient de qualité ou pas, tous les milieux humides sur le territoire du canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest sont maintenant protégés grâce à cet article qu'on a inclus dans notre règlement de zonage. En plus, la loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme à l'article 113-16 vient préciser qu'une municipalité peut régir ou prohiber les usages du sol, les constructions ou les ouvrages dans des cas de protection de l'environnement. Alors, ça aussi, c'est méconnu de la part des municipalités. Alors, donc, moi, j'ai joint la question de déblais et de remblais, plus la protection de l'environnement dans notre règlement de zonage qui fait en sorte qu'aujourd'hui, tous les milieux humides et hydriques sont protégés sur le territoire du canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest. Et toutes les municipalités au Québec pourraient suivre le même plan que ce que nous avons fait. Donc, ça, c'est accessible à toutes les municipalités. Il s'agit maintenant pour eux d'avoir la connaissance de la chose. Il s'agit pour eux maintenant d'avoir la volonté politique de vouloir le faire également. Et ça, c'est très important d'avoir cette volonté politique. De plus, le canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest, on a mis d'avant dans notre règlement de zonage qui est adopté en 2020, la création d'un refuge faunique des Grandes Baies. Alors, ça part de Gatineau, si vous voulez, et ça vient jusqu'à notre municipalité. Et c'est 26 kilomètres de rives qui devront être protégées avec le gouvernement du Québec pour créer le plus grand refuge faunique au Québec. Et pour le canton de Lochaber-Partie-Ouest, écoutez, nous avons 10 kilomètres de rives. C'est la longueur le long de la rivière. Et les 10 kilomètres de rives sur la rivière seront protégés à perpétuité lorsqu'il y aura la création du refuge faunique. Ça veut dire qu'on vient de protéger tous ces milieux humides qui sont adjacents à la rivière des Outaouais par la création du refuge qui est déjà incorporé dans notre règlement de zonage. Et au milieu des terres, avec notre règlement de zonage également, on a protégé tous les milieux humides un peu partout. Maintenant, comment savoir et comment un promoteur ou un individu comment il peut faire pour reconnaître qu'il s'agit bien d'un milieu humide, surtout dans la zone forestière où on retrouve divers types de milieux humides. Alors, ça aussi, c'est une première au Québec dans notre municipalité. Nous avons accrédité 6 firmes de biologistes que nous avons passé en interview, que nous sommes assurés qu'ils connaissent bien notre réglementation. Et tous les promoteurs et les citoyens ne peuvent pas engager leur firme de biologistes, mais ils doivent engager la firme accréditée par la municipalité pour faire la caractérisation des milieux humides sur leur territoire avant toute construction. Alors, c'est donc dire que lorsque quelqu'un dépose un permis de construction chez nous, ça c'est très important, il doit avoir réalisé une caractérisation biologique de tous les milieux humides sur le site avant. Et nous, lorsqu'on va étudier le site, on va placer l'endroit où la maison peut être construite afin de protéger les milieux humides et la zone tampon de ces milieux humides, en plus de protéger les plantes rares, parce qu'on inclut dans notre règlement de zonage également toute la protection des plantes rares qui sont essentielles à la biodiversité. Alors, moi aussi, je pourrais en discuter longtemps, mais je tiens à vous dire que nous sommes très fiers d'être une municipalité de développement durable et d'être une municipalité qui a pris en main la protection de tous ces milieux humides, malgré le type de qualité ou la grandeur des milieux humides, ils sont tous protégés. Aucune discrimination n'est faite chez nous en ce qui concerne la protection des milieux humides. Merci.
Monsieur le maire, merci beaucoup pour partager l'histoire de votre municipalité avec nous. I think, he mentioned a few of what was needed in order to make that work possible. Some political will, for sure, some creativity involved. And it certainly helped to have an environmental lawyer as mayor who could read the fine print and find that article. And so, yes, congratulations on that. And to offer that up as a blueprint for other municipalities, that is fantastic. I promised 4 questions. We got through 1. But that was incredibly enlightening. We learned about the nuances of what is happening in both Ontario and Quebec, what the challenge is, but also the potential with legislative changes. And that right now, again, we have had the Canadian Environmental Law Association, who has reviewed a current proposal put up for comment within Ontario. And so here is an opportunity to be able to have your voices heard. I want to thank all of our panelists for sharing their knowledge and their time with us this evening. And so thank you so much to Theresa, to Sommer, and to Pierre. Nous sommes reconnaissants pour vous. And so we have a small token to say thank you to each of our panelists. Monsieur Renaud, yours will arrive later since you weren't able to be here in person, but we do have something for you. And so just as a small thank you, we have something for you. And so I'm sure there are more questions to be had. I'm sure that you all have your own comments to make on this. And so this is part of being the community of Ottawa Riverkeeper, is that we get to continue having these conversations together, that we are in this work together. And so I look forward to what the next year will bring when we work together. Before we continue on, I want to give you a reminder that at the moment we have an online art auction called Artists in the Watershed. All of these pieces of art can be viewed online. But tonight, for those of you here in person, we have put them all on display. So please, as you make your way onto the next part of your evening, please check out the art. Consider scanning the code and making a bid, or sharing it with those who may be interested. And the auction will close on November 25th at 10 p.m. On behalf of Ottawa Riverkeeper, thank you all for being here this evening. It is really my pleasure to be hosting you this evening. We want to say thank you to all of you who've come to participate. Thank you again to Dentons. Thank you to the supporters, the donors, volunteers, the followers, the cheerleaders who make this work possible. Let me say also thank you to my colleagues, the staff. This is an incredible team working hard every day to realize your shared vision of a healthier Ottawa River watershed. We can't wait to continue to do this work with you. 2023 has a lot in store for Riverkeeper, and we are so thrilled to be doing this with you. So thank you again, and thank you to the interpreters as well. And we wish you a wonderful, watery evening.